English Naturally podcast with Sarah and Michael.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Naturally. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Michael. How are you doing today, Sarah?
I'm doing great, Michael. And I have to say, I'm already getting hungry just thinking about today's topic.
Oh, you and me both. Today, we're diving fork first into one of everyone's favorite subjects, food. Specifically, we're going to teach you how to talk about your dining experiences in English. Whether you're recommending a restaurant to a friend, describing what you ate last night, or just sharing your love for a particular dish, we've got you covered.
Exactly. And you know what they say, Michael. The way to a person's heart is through their stomach. So if you can talk about food well, you're already halfway to making friends in English.
That's so true. And speaking of food and friendship, today we have a fantastic scenario for you. We'll be listening to two friends, Maya and Tom, having what we call a post-dinner debrief.
A debrief is when you discuss something that happened, usually in detail. So a post-dinner debrief means talking about a meal after it's happened. Maya went to a trendy new restaurant last night, and Tom has been dying to hear all about it.
Dying to hear. Great expression there, Sarah. It means you're extremely eager or excited to hear something. Not literally dying, of course.
Yes, very important distinction. Tom is very much alive, just very curious. Before we jump into the conversation, let me give you a quick tip. When you're listening, don't worry if you don't catch every single word. Focus on the overall meaning and the key phrases we'll be teaching you. Ready, Michael?
Ready. Let's listen to Maya and Tom.
Hey Maya, thanks for meeting me. I ordered you a latte. I hope that's okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Tom. I definitely need the caffeine after last night.
Oh, right. So how was that new place you tried last night? The one on Maple Street.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. You know how everyone's been raving about it? Well, it totally lived up to the hype.
No way. Really? What did you end up ordering?
Well, I started with their famous burrata appetizer. Tom, the cheese was so creamy and fresh, it literally melted in my mouth. They paired it with these heirloom tomatoes that were perfectly ripe, and this balsamic reduction that was sweet and tangy at the same time.
Stop it. You're making me jealous. What about the main course?
I got the pan-seared salmon with lemon butter sauce. The salmon was cooked perfectly, tender and flaky, with this beautiful crispy skin on top. And the sauce, rich and savory with just the right amount of tanginess from the lemon.
That sounds incredible. Did Jake get anything good?
Oh, he ordered the mushroom risotto, and honestly, I think I liked his dish even more than mine. The risotto was so creamy and flavorful. It had these wild mushrooms that gave it this deep, earthy taste. The texture was perfect, not too thick, not too runny.
Okay. I'm officially starving now. Did you save room for dessert?
Barely, but we couldn't resist. We shared their chocolate lava cake. Tom, it was absolutely decadent. Warm, gooey chocolate in the center, and they topped it with vanilla bean ice cream. The contrast between the hot cake and the cold ice cream was just chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss is right. What about the restaurant itself? What was the vibe like?
The atmosphere was really cozy and intimate. They had dim lighting, lots of candles on the tables, and soft jazz playing in the background. It felt romantic without being over the top, you know?
That sounds perfect for a date night. How was the service?
The service was top-notch. Our waiter, Carlos, was really attentive without being intrusive. He gave us great recommendations and made sure our water glasses were always full. He even noticed when I mentioned I had a dairy sensitivity and offered to adjust the dessert for me.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, the big question. What about the price? Should I start saving up?
Well, it was a bit pricey, I won't lie. Our meal for two came to about $120 without tip. But honestly, for the quality of food and the whole experience, I'd say it was worth it.
That's not too bad for a special occasion. Would you go back?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm already thinking about what I want to try next time. They have this lamb shank on the menu that looked incredible. And Tom, you have to try it. Seriously, make a reservation this weekend.
I've convinced me. Actually, Sarah's been asking where we should go for our anniversary next month. This might be perfect.
Oh, it would be ideal for an anniversary. Just make sure you book ahead. The place was packed even on a Wednesday night. Oh, and one more thing. Try to get a table by the window. The view of the city lights was gorgeous.
Great tip. I'm texting Sarah right now. By the way, did they have any dishes you'd tell people to skip?
Good question. Actually, the couple next to us ordered the Caesar salad, and it looked pretty underwhelming. Like something you could make at home, you know? For those prices, I'd stick to their specialty dishes. The pasta and the seafood seem to be where they really shine.
Good to know. Avoid the basic salad. Got it. What about drinks? Did you try any cocktails?
Jake had their signature mojito, and it was fantastic. Really refreshing with fresh mint they must grow themselves. I stuck to wine, and they had an excellent wine list. Our waiter helped us pair a crisp white wine with the fish, and it was perfect.
This place sounds like a total winner. I can't wait to try it. Thanks for the full report, Maya.
Anytime. Let me know how you like it. Oh, and tell Sarah I said happy early anniversary.
Will do. Same time next week for coffee?
You know it. Maybe by then you'll have your own restaurant review to share.
Wow. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I'm ready to make a reservation myself.
Right? Maya really painted a picture with her words. And that's exactly what we're going to teach you to do today. Let's break down this conversation and explore all the useful phrases and vocabulary.
Great idea. Let's start at the very beginning. How to ask someone about their dining experience. Tom opened with, "So, how was that new place you tried last night?" This is casual, friendly, and gets straight to the point.
Exactly. And notice the structure. How was is one of the most natural ways to ask about any experience in English. You could also say, "Did you end up going to that Italian place?" Or, "What did you think of the food?" These are all very common openers.
Another phrase Tom used was, "I heard you went to." This is great because it shows you've been paying attention to your friend's life. It's more personal than just asking out of nowhere.
Now, let's talk about Maya's response. She said, "Oh my gosh, it was amazing." This is enthusiastic and immediate. It tells Tom right away that she loved it. "Oh my gosh" is an expression of surprise or excitement, and we use it all the time in spoken English.
And then she said something really interesting. It totally lived up to the hype. Sarah, can you explain that idiom?
Of course. Hype means excitement and publicity about something, often before it's released or opened. When something lives up to the hype, it means it was as good as everyone said it would be. So if everyone is talking about a new restaurant and saying it's amazing, and then you go and it really is amazing, it lived up to the hype. Perfect explanation. Now, what if Maya hadn't loved it? She could have said, "Honestly, it was a bit of a letdown." A letdown is a disappointment when something isn't as good as you expected. Or she might say, "It was nothing special," which is more neutral but still negative. Or even, "I was pretty disappointed, actually." That word "actually" at the end adds emphasis and shows this is her honest opinion.
Great point. Now let's dive into the really fun part, describing the actual food. This is where English gets wonderfully descriptive. Maya used so many great adjectives and phrases.
She did. Let's start with the burrata. She said it was creamy and fresh and that it melted in her mouth. When something melts in your mouth, it means it's incredibly tender and soft. We often use this for cheese, chocolate, or very tender meat.
and she described the balsamic reduction as sweet and tangy. Tangy is such a useful word. It means sharp and sour, but in a pleasant way, like lemons, vinegar, or certain cheeses.
Moving on to the salmon, Maya said it was tender and flaky. Flaky describes fish that breaks apart easily into thin layers. It's a sign of perfectly cooked fish. And she mentioned the crispy skin. Crispy means pleasantly crunchy and firm, the opposite of soft or soggy.
The sauce was rich and savory. Now, savory is an important word. It describes flavors that are salty, meaty, or herbal, basically not sweet. So savory is the opposite of sweet. Think of things like roasted chicken, soy sauce, or herbs like rosemary. Then we have the risotto, which she called creamy and flavorful. Flavorful is a wonderful all-purpose word that means something has lots of good taste. It's very positive. She also mentioned earthy flavors from the mushrooms. Earthy describes flavors that remind you of soil or nature. Mushrooms, beets, and truffles are often called earthy.
And let's not forget that dessert. She called it decadent. Sarah, this is one of my favorite food words.
Mine too. Decadent describes food that's extremely rich, luxurious, and indulgent. Often sweet things like chocolate cake, cheesecake, or anything with lots of cream and butter. It's almost too rich, but in a good way. When you eat something decadent, you feel like you're treating yourself to something special.
And she also mentioned the lava cake was gooey in the center. Gooey means soft, sticky, and thick, like melted cheese or chocolate. It's informal, but very descriptive.
Now, what about texture? Maya used several texture words. She said the salmon was tender, meaning soft and easy to cut. The risotto had the perfect texture, not too thick, not too runny. Texture is how something feels in your mouth, not how it tastes.
And if she'd had pasta, she might have used the word al dente. This is an Italian expression we've borrowed in English. It means pasta that's cooked so it's still a bit firm when you bite it, not soft or mushy.
Exactly. Other texture words include crispy, which we mentioned, chewy, meaning you have to chew it a lot, like some breads or caramels, and crunchy, which is similar to crispy, but usually for things like raw vegetables or nuts.
What if something doesn't taste good? Maya actually mentioned a dish from the menu that she'd recommend skipping. She said the Caesar salad looked underwhelming. That means it was disappointing or not impressive.
She could also have said it looked bland, which means lacking flavor or taste, or dry, meaning not moist enough. These are polite ways to criticize food without being too harsh.
Now let's talk about describing the restaurant itself. Maya said the atmosphere was cozy and intimate. Cozy means comfortable and warm, the kind of place where you feel relaxed. Intimate means small and private, good for close conversations or romantic dinners.
She could have used other words, too. If the restaurant was busy and energetic, she might say it had a lively or bustling vibe. Vibe is informal for atmosphere or feeling. If it was fancy and elegant, she might call it upscale or sophisticated.
And she said the service was top-notch. This is a great idiom, Sarah.
It is. Top-notch means excellent or the best quality. We use it for anything that's really good: service, products, performances. It comes from the idea of a notch or level, and top means the highest level.
And she also said their waiter was attentive. This means he paid good attention to them and was aware of what they needed. The opposite would be unattentive or neglectful.
But notice, she said attentive without being intrusive. Intrusive means pushing in too much or bothering you. So the waiter found the perfect balance, helpful but not annoying.
Let's talk about money. Maya said it was a bit pricey. Pricey is a nice, polite way to say expensive. It's softer than saying it was really expensive. You could also say it wasn't cheap or it's on the expensive side.
And when Tom asked if it was worth it, she said yes, considering the quality of food and the whole experience. This is important. When we talk about whether a restaurant is worth the money, we don't just think about the food. We think about the service, atmosphere, and overall experience.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at recommendations. Maya gave a strong recommendation. You have to try it. This is very enthusiastic. It's stronger than you should try it or I recommend it.
She also said it was worth it. This phrase compares the cost to the value you received. If something is worth it, the experience or product justifies the price. You could also say it was worth every penny.
And she even told him which specific dishes to order, saying the pasta and seafood seemed to be where they really shine. Shine here means to be excellent or to show their best qualities. Every restaurant has dishes where they really shine. They're specialties.
On the flip side, if you want to say don't go to this restaurant, you could use the phrase Maya mentioned. I'd probably give it a miss. This is a very British expression, but Americans understand it too. It's a polite way to say skip it or don't bother.
Another gentle way to not recommend something is to say, it wasn't really my cup of tea. This idiom means it wasn't to your taste or preference, but you're not saying it's objectively bad.
Let's also talk about the language of spiciness. Maya didn't order anything spicy, but if she had, she might say it had a nice kick to it. A kick means a sharp, spicy heat. Or she could warn Tom, be careful, that sauce is pretty spicy.
If something is very spicy, you might say it's got some heat or it's fiery. And if you can't handle spicy food, you could say, I have a low tolerance for spice, or spicy food doesn't agree with me.
Now, I want to highlight some of the connecting phrases Maya used throughout her description. She said things like, you know how everyone's been raving about it? And, you know? These little phrases check that the listener is following along and keep the conversation flowing naturally.
She also used honestly to introduce her true opinion and actually to add surprising information. These are called discourse markers, and they make your English sound much more natural and fluent.
Another great phrase was chef's kiss. This is a fun, informal expression. It comes from the gesture of kissing your fingers and gesturing away. It means something is absolutely perfect, especially food. It's very trendy right now.
And did you notice how Maya structured her whole description? She went from appetizer to main course to dessert, then talked about the atmosphere, service, and price, and ended with her recommendation. This is a natural flow for a restaurant review.
Exactly. When you're describing a dining experience, try to organize your thoughts like this. It helps the listener follow your story, and it makes you sound more articulate.
Let's also talk about comparisons. Maya said, I think I liked his dish even more than mine. Using comparisons like more than, better than, not as good as, helps you show preferences clearly.
And she used the phrase, the contrast between the hot cake and the cold ice cream was just, and then said chef's kiss. Talking about contrasts, hot and cold, sweet and savory, crispy and creamy, makes your descriptions much more interesting and vivid.
One more important point. Maya was specific with her details. She didn't just say, good cheese. She said, creamy and fresh burrata. She didn't say, the restaurant was nice. She mentioned dim lighting, candles, and jazz music. Specific details make your English much more engaging.
And she used lots of sensory language, words that describe what she saw, tasted, felt, and even smelled. English has such a rich vocabulary for food because we love talking about it. Don't be afraid to use descriptive words.
Now, let's talk about some idioms related to food that you might hear in conversations. We've already covered lived up to the hype and chef's kiss, but there are so many more.
Oh, yes. How about food for thought? This doesn't mean actual food. It means something interesting to think about. For example, that's an interesting perspective, Michael. That's real food for thought.
Here's another one. That's the icing on the cake. The icing is the sweet frosting on top of a cake. So this idiom means an additional good thing that makes something that's already good even better. Or take it with a grain of salt. If someone tells you to take something with a grain of salt, they mean you should be a bit skeptical and not believe it completely. And if someone says, "That's not my cup of tea," as we mentioned earlier, they mean it's not something they enjoy or prefer. It's a very British expression, but we use it in American English too. Here's a fun one.
Spill the tea. This is slang, especially popular with younger people. It means tell me the gossip or give me the details. So if Tom had said, spill the tea about the restaurant, he'd be saying, tell me everything.
Though I have to say, Sarah, traditional spilling the tea is more about gossip than restaurants, but you're right that it means sharing information.
Fair point. How about in a nutshell? This means to summarize something briefly. Maya could have said, in a nutshell, the restaurant was fantastic, a bit expensive, but totally worth it.
Love that one. And here's one more. Piece of cake. If something is a piece of cake, it's very easy. Though be careful. It's not about actual cake. If learning these phrases feels like a piece of cake to you, that means it's easy.
I love how food idioms often have nothing to do with actual food. But that's English for you, always keeping you on your toes. Speaking of which, keeping you on your toes means keeping you alert and ready.
All right, before we move on to our challenge, let's do a quick recap of the key vocabulary we've covered today. We've learned words to describe taste, flavorful, savory, tangy, bland, sweet, earthy, rich, and decadent.
We learned texture words, tender, crispy, crunchy, chewy, creamy, flaky, and gooey. We learned about atmosphere, cozy, intimate, lively, bustling, upscale, and sophisticated.
We learned about service, top-notch, attentive, and intrusive, about price, pricey, worth it, expensive, and about giving opinions. It was amazing, it lived up to the hype, it was a letdown, it was nothing special.
And we learned fantastic phrases like melted in my mouth, had a nice kick to it, worth every penny, give it a miss, you have to try it, and chef's kiss.
The key to using all this vocabulary naturally is practice. Try describing your meals to friends, write reviews online, or even just think through what you'd say about your breakfast in English.
Excellent advice, Michael. And speaking of practice, it's time for today's challenge.
All right, everyone, here's your challenge for today. We want you to be the restaurant reviewer. That's right. Think about the last restaurant you went to or a memorable meal you had. It could be a fancy restaurant, a casual cafe, a street food vendor, or even a home-cooked meal at a friend's house. In the comments below this video, we want you to write a mini restaurant review. Try to include at least 5 of the vocabulary words or phrases we taught you today. Here's a template to help you structure your review. Start with the name of the place, or just describe it if it doesn't have a name. Give your general impression. Was it amazing, a letdown, pretty good? Describe one specific dish using taste and texture words. Say something about the atmosphere or service. End with your recommendation. For example, you might write, I went to Mario's Pizza last weekend. The restaurant has a lively, bustling vibe with families and friends everywhere.
I ordered the margarita pizza, and oh my gosh, it was incredible. The crust was perfectly crispy on the outside, but chewy on the inside. And the sauce was rich and flavorful with fresh basil. The service was top-notch. Our waiter was really attentive. It was a bit pricey at $25 for a large pizza, but totally worth it. You have to try it if you're in the area.
See how that includes lively, bustling, crispy, chewy, rich, flavorful, top-notch, attentive, pricey, and you have to try it? That's what we're looking for.
But don't just copy our example. Make it your own. Use your own experiences and try to be creative with the vocabulary. The goal is to practice using these words in context.
And here's the fun part. We'll be reading through the comments and picking our favorite reviews to feature in next week's episode. We might even give you some gentle corrections or suggestions to help you improve.
So put your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward means to make your best effort, by the way. Make your review descriptive, detailed, and delicious.
And if you're feeling shy about your English level, don't be. This podcast is all about learning naturally, and making mistakes is part of the process. We're all here to learn together.
Absolutely. We can't wait to read about your food experiences. And who knows, maybe we'll discover some great restaurant recommendations from our listeners around the world.
Before we wrap up, let's give you a few bonus tips for talking about food in English. First, don't be afraid to use your hands and facial expressions. When you're describing food, it's natural to gesture. It makes your descriptions more lively and engaging.
Second, try to appeal to all the senses. Don't just talk about taste. Mention the smell, the appearance, the sound of sizzling food, the feeling of the atmosphere. Multi-sensory descriptions are much more powerful.
Third, be honest but kind. If you didn't like something, you can say so, but try to be constructive. Instead of, the pasta was disgusting, you might say, the pasta was overcooked for my taste, or I prefer my pasta with more sauce.
And finally, remember that food is universal. People everywhere love talking about eating. So this vocabulary isn't just useful for restaurants. You can use it at dinner parties, potlucks, holiday meals, or even when you're cooking with friends.
Food brings people together, and being able to describe it well in English will help you connect with English speakers in a fun, natural way.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Michael, I have to say, this was one of my favorite topics we've covered.
Mine too, though now I'm definitely going to need lunch after this. Maybe I'll try to describe it using all our new vocabulary.
Please do. And listeners, remember, we want to hear from you in the comments. Write your restaurant review. Use those descriptive words and don't be shy.
Before we go, let's remind everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to English Naturally, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode.
You can also follow us on social media for daily English tips, fun food vocabulary posts, and behind-the-scenes content. All our links are in the description below.
And if you have suggestions for future topics, let us know. We're always looking for new scenarios and conversations to help you learn English naturally.
Next week, we'll be covering how to talk about travel experiences in English, from booking flights to describing your adventures. You won't want to miss it.
Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying delicious food.
Thanks for listening to English Naturally. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Michael. And we'll see you next time.
Don't forget, post your restaurant review in the comments. We're counting on you.
Happy eating, everyone.